Have you started writing a book? Maybe even two or three? Well, getting to the finish line takes a skilled team. Shine Press has that team. They help you transform your ideas into a strong book and beyond. Illuminating stories, empowering authors. Go to shine-press.com to learn more.
Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. The universe lines up sometimes and really cool things happen. And Dr. Carrie Graham and I just figured out that we both went to Catawba almost at exactly the same time, and nobody's heard of Catawba College. So today is going to be fun, right? Right, Dr. Graham?
Absolutely. I can't even
Yeah.
believe it. I can't even believe it.
I know, me either. But okay, we got some housekeeping things. Number one, today is April 3rd, which happens to be Jackson and Chloe McMullen's 24th birthday. So Jackson and Chloe, happy birthday. I am so proud of both of you and who you are and who you're becoming. And I hope that today is extra special for you. And if you're
I also want to add, Jackson and Chloe, you have such an incredible mom. So proud, so proud. So happy birthday to you as well.
Thank you, Dr. Graham. Thank you. That makes me a little emotional because I'm still 24 somehow in my mind, and yet I have 24-year-olds, and that's somehow not mathematically possible. But I am so thrilled that all of you are here today. And if you're not already following this podcast, I need you to, because then you won't know about the amazing Dr. Graham because you won't hear this episode. So follow, subscribe, do all of that good stuff, and we're going to jump right in. So Dr. Carrie Graham is a lot of amazing things. Besides a Catawba College grad, that's a big one. She's a wife and a mom and a grandma, although she looks phenomenal. She is a foodie to the core. She also really enjoys traveling and culture and learning about other people's culture. She is a woman of faith. She is originally from Connecticut, but now resides in the Charlotte area. And she's a workplace learning strategist. Would you please welcome Dr. Carrie Graham? Welcome to Productive Joy.
Oh, thank you so much, Christy. I am so full of joy. I am super honored to be here to spend time with you and your listeners. And most importantly, I am looking forward to see where our conversation takes us, alum to alum.
I can think of so many professors that would be so proud right now. Like, how fun is that? Okay, so everybody else probably is not as excited about our Catawba College connection as we are, but y'all have to understand, this is a tiny little school in Salisbury, North Carolina. And when I found out that Dr. Graham was from the Charlotte area, I asked her where specifically. And then I said, oh, well, yeah, because I went to this little school in Salisbury called Catawba. And then she was like, wait, what? So not only had she heard of it, she knows how to pronounce it. And she is also an alum. So fun. So Dr. Graham, here's the reality. People will not be as excited as we are about that.
Absolutely.
So what would you say to them in like 30 seconds or less that would make them so excited to listen to the rest of this episode?
I would say that your training experience doesn't have to make you roll your eyes. You do not have to dread the mere sound of we have a training to attend, but rather you can be excited. It is possible to have great training programs at your work.
It is indeed. And so we are singing from the same songbook on that one for sure. So tell us a little bit about how you got to the point where you were making trainings not suck for others. So I know you probably didn't start there. Why don't you give us a little bit more of your journey?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, my journey started with a bachelor's degree in sports medicine. And a master's as well. So I actually started my career in Division I athletics as a healthcare provider. And, some would say, well, that's so separate and unconnected. But the truth of the matter is, as a healthcare provider in elite athletics, you're required to make really careful decisions under so much stress and pressure. And you're also tasked with identifying the most effective and efficient solution to that problem. And that is what I do. That is, over the years, right? So there was that. And then I became a faculty member for a large bulk of my career. But what I found is as a healthcare provider, we are constantly board certified. You're required to attend trainings and conferences. And as the years progress, I was maturing. My skill set was maturing. My workload was evolving and my personal life was evolving, but the trainings were staying the same and they were not meeting my particular needs. And so sadly, I was becoming very frustrated as a professional. And then I had this pivotal experience that, Christy, I have to share with you. So I was working at an institution. I am not going to name names, but I was working at an institution and we, all the employees across this large institution, were required to attend a sexual harassment training.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
know, state mandated, it's what you do. And it was my first one at this organization. So I'm in an auditorium of about 200 to 300 people. And I look around and there's some people who are sleeping, people are having side conversations, totally unrelated. This was a time when Candy Crush was a popular game on cell phones. And so people were playing that while there was a sexual harassment presentation going on.
Mhm.
That wasn't the most disturbing part of this. What was most disturbing is that at the same time, this institution was involved in a very public litigation around sexual harassment.
So it should have been relevant. It should have been important to the people in the room.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that for me was when all of the flags, I could not ignore the experience that I had been having for years and thought that it was in isolation. And that was an indicator that no, the system of providing, whether it's mandatory training, positional trainings at work, it's a broken system. It's a broken system. And that is what led me, of course, other life experiences happen, but that's what has led me to doing the work that I do now. So in the work that I'm doing now, I'm leveraging those early skill sets of problem solving and calming situations and identifying clear strategies, but I'm applying that skill set to these systems within organizations that, executives and leaders don't want to admit, but the employees can admit this is a broken system.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. And I think I've sat through the same training, although they're online now, and that is a
Right.
whole different experience. But, you know, professional learning doesn't have to be terrible. It doesn't have to be painful. It can be beautiful and actually accomplish what it's meant to accomplish. So I have good friends who have been physical therapists for 28, 30 years, somewhere in that range. And every 2 to 3 years, they have to take CPR.
Yeah.
And it is something they have used, something they know how to do, something they could teach. And yet there is zero differentiation of experience. So everybody's in a room and they're learning, staying alive, and they're experiencing everything as if they know nothing. And that, I think, is the biggest travesty we can do in a training situation, is to not honor the brilliance in the room. There is so much knowledge already there. So I want to hear how you do it. How do you fix it? How have you figured out how to make it better?
Yeah. So thank you for asking that question. Honestly, one of the very first things that I tell people, and sometimes it's challenging for me to say this to someone, but I firmly believe in it. And morally, I shouldn't be doing this work if I don't tell the truth. And what I tell them is, it's not about you.
Amen.
I'm like let's and I have to repeat it. And what I mean by that is you are not the center of the training. All that you know, all your experience, your brilliance, the work that and time that you invested in crafting together something, you're not, the spotlight isn't on you, or at least it shouldn't be you when it comes to training development and facilitation. So that's the first thing. The second thing is my PhD and my area of interest and my passion, my research is around adult learning and workplace learning specifically. We have lengthy conversations around who is the user. So, when I speak to leaders and business owners, they often I'd say, well, who's going to be the recipient of this training? They often start to give me demographic information. Oh, these are middle managers. Oh, these are our team leads. Oh, these are, first time employees. Okay, like I understand what a employee can look like. But let's dig deeper and tell me. And so, my next question, then clarifying question is, well, who are they as learners? And consistently, I've never had anyone answer that question. They've often said, oh, well, I've never thought of it like that before.
Mhm.
And that therein lies the problem, right? So, I don't fault anyone who has not crafted a training from a theoretical and research perspective. I don't fault them because that's just not an experience that people would have. But that is truly where the problem lies, is we are not viewing many businesses, organizations are not focused on the exact thing that you mentioned, Christy. It's who are the people that are going to be in attendance this time,
Mhm.
right? This time. I often equate it to having a dinner party. You get to decide who you want to invite to your dinner party. However, how you talk about your phone, right? Let's just use it as an item. How you talk about that item depends upon who is seated at the table. You may have someone who their life experience, they've never seen a cell phone before.
Right.
They have no concept of what it is. You may have someone who is a developer, an engineer of a cell phone. You may have someone else who is fifth generation
Yeah.
of servicing cell phones. You can talk about the same item, but that is a very different conversation. Inviting people to a training and learning experience, it really is the same thing. You have to pay attention to who are the individuals involved.
Yeah, you need to know your guest list. You need to know what they might need and what they're hoping to gain, right? Because you also about if we're going to let's carry this analogy for a minute. If we're having a dinner party and I don't know that somebody's gluten-free and somebody else is a vegetarian and somebody else is a pescatarian and I serve steak to everybody with, all the bread,
All the bread.
then I have ruined the experience for multiple people. And I think it has been my experience because I do a lot of training too. And it has been my experience that if you don't take the time to learn who's in the room, immediately you have multiple people check out on you, right? Like before you ever even open your mouth. And then you lose others after you open your mouth because you said something that was a trigger that you didn't even bother to ask. So it sounds like you partner with organizations to meet their needs, but you get them to think about what their needs are before you come in. Because I think often as trainers, come on in and we want you to train on this is sexual harassment, right?
Yeah.
But how I do that in a place that's being investigated for sexual harassment is going to look different than one that, has had no issues or is
Yeah.
whatever. So how cool is that? So tell me about a time that you worked with an organization. It could be any example at all, and you saw the kind of results that people would want to get. Give me a story.
Yeah. So it was a business owner who written a book and has this really progressive global certification program, and approached me and said, I have some concerns about my program. There seems to be a dip in student satisfaction. They also had a number of coaches or trainers that were also involved. And like people are saying they're getting different experiences depending upon who the coach is. And there were lots of pitfalls that were starting to widen and
Yes.
deepen. And I looked at the program and I thought, wow, like this is a really cool program. Like this is kudos to you for putting this together. However, what happened was what I identified that was happening is where it started had not evolved
Ah,
to today. And that often happens.
sure.
But in that, there were also gaps from a learning perspective, right? So you have people who are going to be certified, you're preparing them to get certified, but the curriculum itself wasn't preparing them to get certified.
Yeah.
And so it was an incredible experience. I am so honored to have had the chance to be invited. And I do view it as being invited into the organization to work with the owner, the program, the coaches. And we did a lot of standardization of experiences, filling in the gaps. But the greatest honor that I got from that was about 3 months after she had that cohort go through. I got an email from the executive assistant or executive director, I should say. Hey, we got our most recent survey findings. We've always surveyed our cohorts afterwards, and this is what they said. Student satisfaction had went up like 60%, right? Another finding was that their level of preparedness went up 50% as well. And there was an increase in their interactions with the coaches and the experiences that they were having. And that for me, that's an honor. That's an honor that I know the power of a well-structured training program, whether it's a one-page training program that happens in the course of a 15-minute interaction or something that's more long
Yeah.
standing. And so it's always something that I go back to. I've had other instances where people and organizations were successful, but there's something about working with individuals who are ready
Yeah.
and they want the change. They want to do right by the people that they're supporting.
Yeah. Well, and what I heard there is the people that left that training felt equipped to do their jobs, right? Nobody wants to be terrible at their job. And yet we often equip people with nothing to be good at it, right? Like, you get a job, maybe that's straight out of college, maybe you've been in the career for 15 years and you don't know how to do it well, so you fake it.
Yeah.
And then you go to training and the training is not relevant. And so you aren't able to implement what it is that you're learning. And then it creates this loop, right? And you're breaking that loop. Well done, Dr. Graham. Well done. That's
Thank you.
not easy, right? And so I think that to me is a good definition of productive joy, right? You are creating this space where people can learn something that they can actually use. But I want to know what your definition of productive joy would be. If you had to describe it, how would you describe productive joy?
I love the name. And when I think of productive joy, I think of ease.
Mm,
I really do. There are certain things that we can do in life that are, they have a positive outcome, but they require like,
yeah.
drudgery, right? For me, it's cooking. And while I do like to eat, I'm not a fan of
You're a
cooking.
foodie that wants somebody else to make the food.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm a good cook. I just don't enjoy it. But nevertheless, right? So it's when I think of productive joy, I think of the things that we can do that are helpful. And because of our effort wasn't in vain, because our effort has a positive and desirable outcome, we can sit back and rest in joy.
Yeah.
And that is it comes from peace. And, you know, at I'm a firm believer in, and the I'll just say this. The Bible talks a lot about the seeking peace and the power of peace. And really one of the benefits of peace is joy. And so if we're working from a place of peacefulness, if we're working from a place of intention and strategy, it will be productive and it will be joyful.
Ah, so I just had a fun moment because this is the 125th, no, 126th episode of Productive Joy. Okay, that's a big deal, right? And I'm super excited about that. And I have always asked the question, what's your definition of productive joy? And I've never gotten the same answer twice until right this minute. And about a month ago, I interviewed Queen, and Queen said, and Mojasani is, I think, is how you pronounce her last name, but she said peace also. And I think I love the word ease as well, but the peace part is I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And in doing so, I am evoking joy, but I'm also doing what I'm supposed to do. So I'm being productive at the same time. What a beautiful definition. And how cool that it finally happened, that it was truly, I mean, they've been some similar, and yeah, you could say, but I also love the fact that I've heard about 126 different definitions of productive joy. Thank you for that. That was really special. And I can just tell in our short friendship that it's going to last because, I mean,
Absolutely.
as alum, why wouldn't it?
Right.
But in our short time together, I can tell that you bring that peace to the people around you, and you say, all right, let's take it down a notch. Let's figure out what we're trying to accomplish here, and then let's make sure that that's what we're producing in our trainings, in our space. Because everybody has dreaded going to a training. Everybody has gone, oh my gosh, I can never get that hour of my life back. That was terrible. And so something that I actually specialize in is working with conference speakers. Because when you get a conference speaker, you have to think about they're experts in their field, not experts in speaking. And often they have something you really need, and they don't know how to get that point across very well. And so I coach them in how do you make those interactions safe, logical, fun, and memorable so that people actually walk away with what you wanted them to walk away with. And it sounds like you do something very similar for organizations, but also the trainers themselves, right? The facilitators. And the people that are listening are leaders who want to do things differently, who want to produce joy in their workspaces. So, what advice would you have for a group of leaders who want to do things differently and want to evoke that peace and that productive joy? What would you say to them to do exactly that?
Yeah, I love the question, and I have to say, first, it's change your perspective and not look for difference. Because I think when we think about, oh, we want to do something different, oftentimes it's the shiny new object. It's the industry trend, right? And that's often integrated without consideration for our organization and our organizational values. So I would say let's not get away from doing things different just for the sake of.
Right.
Let's for the sake of. Now, when it comes to leaders, so leaders, executives, my C-suite friends, let's all just lean in. Let's put the phone down, right? I'm talking to you specifically.
Yes.
I encourage you to reflect on what is the vision. Well, and particularly, what is the value around your employees, your teams, your workforce? If your mission identifies that you value these individuals, I encourage you and I invite you to take a strategic look, not a different look, but a strategic look at how your training aligns with the mission. So if in fact you highly value them, are you supporting individuals within your organization from the moment they sign the paperwork as part of onboarding consistently all the way through retirement or whenever they choose to leave? Now, oftentimes leaders will say, I don't want to invest in them, and then they get good and leave. That's a very short-sighted
Yes.
way to look at that. And the reason I say it's short-sighted is even if they do leave, you don't know why they've left. They may leave because of family job locations, seasons of life, whatever the case may be. But if they leave, one thing that they can always say about your organization is it's a great place to work because they invest in their people.
Yeah.
It is hands down the best recruiting and marketing you could ever have. So you get that for free. You get that for free. But I encourage you to think strategically. If we've got, for those of you right now, if you've got Generation Z coming in through your doors, they come to you with a totally different set of needs. And they don't have a set of needs or a set of skills, I should say.
Right.
It is your responsibility to support them in that development. You've got some mid-career individuals. Their lives are changing. You've got parents becoming caregivers. You've got people who are identifying, I don't want to be part of the rat race anymore. I am ready to do my best work. You need to support them from a learning perspective and get away from training, quote unquote, training to serve your productive needs only. People will do and be committed and work hard when they feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
And they spend more of their time with you and in your organization than with their families and then their communities and even with themselves, really, if we're thinking about self-care.
Yeah.
Right. You have a responsibility to support them. That is where your money should be invested. So please, I'm gonna get on my high horse.
Okay, do it.
Please stop taking money out of those budgets. You need to add more money to the budget. And it's not to bring in a celebrity to get people excited and pumped up. It's not to every year and a half, invest in a new technical system because it's the new thing. You need to take a strategic look at what you're doing, how you can do it better to get you to where you want to go.
So well said, Dr. Graham. So well said, and so important. And yet, and let me back up. It's what I think I liked most about what you said is it's not about doing things differently. It's about doing things strategically and being thoughtful about why am I doing this? Why are we doing this training? Why are we doing this event? Whatever it might be. I also appreciated, calling in a keynote for tens of thousands of dollars to get people to rah is great if there's some sort of follow-up to it. But when there isn't, it is truly a waste of money, right? Like, yes, I felt good in the moment, but there was no call to action. There was no change in my practice. There was nothing for me to do differently. And I think that's the added bonus to what you do is that you are helping people know what's supposed to look like after instead of just assuming, okay, well, nothing's going to change because of this thing. And so here's my big question. How would people find you? Because you strike me as the type of human that they're going to really want in their lives. So what's the best way for them to find Dr. Carrie Graham?
Yeah, I would say the absolute best place to find me is on my website, actually, and it's drcarriegraham.com. I made it as easy as possible. And it's funny, earlier, you mentioned that and you identified that I have a way of calming. And it's something that has always been a part of me. And I'm on the other side, thankfully, of 50, and people have consistently said, you know, I always feel good when I talk to you. You're so calming. And I've thought about when people come to me, where are they emotionally? And oftentimes they're in a place of either an agitation, uncomfortable, a level of anxiety, frustration. And so when you visit my website, there is a button that says calm consultation.
Love that.
And that was intentional. Is we're going to chat. And it's no, there's no hard sell because that is not in my personality, but rather let's have a calm conversation about what it is you're struggling with and potentially how I can support you.
Ah, well, I hope that people are running to that website right now and that they are looking for that consultation, because you do have that presence, that ability to make people feel safe, and that you're going to take care of them and that you're going to produce something for them that is truly what they need and and what they want, right? Like not just one or the other, but both. That's
Yeah.
well done.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
I mean, it must have been that undergrad skills,
I was
things
just
you
thinking
learned.
the same thing, like, man, my undergrad, those 4 years sure did prepare me for like, and the truth of the matter is, Christy, I want to encourage everyone, whether you've been formally educated or not, is to think back to your late teens, early 20s, and what were some lessons that you can take from that period in your life? And think about how has it prepared you for today?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it really was like, if people knew the shy, timid me that was 18 and all that I learned in those 4 years being away from home and such, it really was a great starting ground for where I am today.
Well, and it's clear that you've taken all of your experiences and turned them into the product that is you today that will continue to evolve, right? We don't arrive.
Right.
And if we're smart, we use all of the experiences to create the product that we're meant to be. And that is something that's very clear you've done. So well done. Well done. All right. So I could talk to you forever, but people won't listen for always. So
Right.
I do have some rapid fire questions for you. Are you excited?
I am. I am a little nervous, but that's
Oh,
okay.
don't be nervous. There are no wrong answers. So, first question, what is your definition of fun?
My definition of fun is when I am able to be who I truly am without limitation.
Mm, I love that. Okay.
Now, I can explain that further, but these are rapid fire. So,
You know what? And I think you should leave them wanting more, and they should go to your website and do a consultation to find out the rest of that story. Okay. So, how do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
when I am relaxed, when I am relaxed, and when there are moments when internally I'm challenged, and I'm able to say to myself, Carrie, you need to step through that, not push through, but step through that and say the thing that I may not really want to say, but needs to be said. That's when I know I'm showing up my authentic self.
Ah, I love that. Great answer. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
Oh my goodness. I pause.
Mm,
I pause. I've learned that over the years that on my worst days, the more I push, the worse gets.
mm,
And
mm.
so for me, it's pause and give myself whatever it is that I need in that moment, but pausing.
That's good advice. Definitely good advice. All right, last question, and this is going to be tough because you really painted a beautiful picture of what learning should look like as an adult and how, as leaders, we can create that kind of an environment for our teams, and we can make great things happen. And you're pretty charming too. So, what do you really want people to remember? If they can only remember one thing about this podcast, what do you want their number one takeaway to be?
The one thing that because I believe in action, right? So hope, internally, I want people to want to hear more about me and talk to me and meet me, but it's not about me. As I said earlier, it's not about me.
We learned that.
Right. And so I want people to walk away from this podcast episode thinking,
Mm.
thinking. And that it doesn't, for me, it doesn't matter what you think about But think, what is my belief about training? How can I do things strategic? How can we create a training that's strategic? Do our current practices around training tightly align to our mission and our vision? Right? Just please think. Think about the work that you're doing and the work that you say you want to do.
Ah,
Think about it.
yeah, that is a perfect call to action because I don't know that we are always thinking about those things. And if we would just take a minute, we'd have a whole lot more shots that hit the target instead of just random things that we're shooting at, not even a target where I don't even know what we're aiming for. So I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Graham, for being with us today and for sharing your brilliance on productive joy. What a blessing to get to know you a little bit, to get to spend time with you, and just to get to share your story publicly. It was an honor. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much, Christy. It really, alum aside, fellow aside, it really is an honor to have a conversation that at the core of it rests with joy. Productivity, absolutely, but that joyful piece, and you exude joy. Let me, for those who haven't like talked to you and seen your face, like there's so much joy, and that is something that the world needs so much more of. And it's interesting on the day in which we are recording this compared to the day in which this will be broadcast. And so it is truly, it has been an honor. It really has been.
Well, I think you're pretty amazing, and this friendship's going to last. And so, for my productive joy friends, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for giving of your time. And we just hope that you've grabbed a nugget of wisdom that can turn things around for you, because it's my hope for you every day that you figure out a way to turn fun into action.